We're back on Under the Olive Tree on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, Ontario. We have with us a round table of Montrealers and Quebecers that went to the World Education Forum in Ramallah, occupied Palestine, from the October 28th to the 31st. They're back to tell us about their experiences. We spoke earlier with the panelists here on the issues that they faced trying to come into Palestine, what they saw once they're there. A few things came up, including the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions campaign. This is, for me, very important. I want to hear, you went to see what is happening in the education sector in Palestine. You met with students and professors and so on. How is the situation, number one, of what is the health of the educational institutions in Palestine? And then maybe we can talk about comparing that to the situation that we see here in Canada. So any of you could give us.
Well, I mean, first thing, it should be seen that this was a World Education Forum in Palestine. That's very important. So it was not a forum on Palestine or education situation in Palestine, but of course there was an interaction between the teachers and students within Palestine. And obviously the same, one of the main things which came out was access to schools because of the apartheid wall, because passing through zones where there's lots of Palestinian soldiers and military presence. That was one of the main things which came out. In terms of another thing I think that should be noted, in terms of number of people, even within the hardship in Palestine, having access to education, that is not the biggest problem in Palestine. The problem is going through that exercise within the occupation. That is hurting the Palestinian minds. Freedom from fear is what is needed to get better education and quality education. That is the thing which came out very strongly. The capacity of Palestinians, their resilience, it was very, very obvious. I think that they were saying that first time probably they had organized an international event. They were the leaders. They were leading organization of a process, while in other instances, people organize things on and about Palestine with the world over. And the first time they were hosting the teachers and the activists from outside and within Palestine to such a big forum. So there were tensions, obviously. I mean, Palestine, we know, is a polarized society in its own rights, in its own way. But I think at the end of the conference, end of the forum, they really felt empowered. That's what the impression I got from the organizers, and so much so that now they are forming a secretariat of the World Education Forum in Palestine. So that shows that how do you say that, the volonté, the will and the momentum has been set, and I think that's good news for us too.
What were because it was a forum on sort of education beyond Palestine. So what were the themes within those 3 days? I understand it was a very packed 3 days of workshops and programs, but maybe if you can just touch upon some of the themes that were actually ended up being that were touched upon within the World Education Forum, within the process that was able to also make the bridges between the situation for Palestinians fighting for the right to education, but also issues surrounding education beyond Palestine.
I mean, the few workshops and seminars I attended, it was clearly the focus was political. It was to do with the education under occupation. That was one of the themes, and as Stefan said, the BDS was everywhere. The ideas in the proposals, in the formulations which came out, it was to support the BDS campaigns the world over. It was asking the people who had come from outside, especially the international guests, that when they go back home, they should increase and work towards making the BDS movement bigger. So that message was very, very clear. Amongst other things, there were many other themes being discussed in the workshops and seminars. For example, the role of culture and art in education. That was a very important theme being discussed. And other themes like the tools of pedagogy under different systems, in different societies. So that we learned a lot about that from the Palestinians, and the Palestinians in return learned from the Brazilians who were there, the Italians, the French, the Canadians, the Moroccans who were there. So I mean, there was a good exchange of what tools are being used under what circumstances in education. It was very great to see quite an interesting delegation from MST from Brazil, that is the landless people's movement. And I think these kinds of diverse, not diverse, I would say like different focused groups reached Palestine for this exchange of how did MST educate and how do they educate their people, how do they build their movement within Brazil. I think that was a good exchange, and I think the Palestinians appreciated that a lot. And in return, of course, the MST came back with ideas of how are Palestinians engaged in the education process within Palestine.
A lot of the workshops also made the links between different movements for social justice. There were workshops on feminist resistance in Palestine, student organizing, like Feroz said, workshops on Ferrer and pedagogy. And one thing that really stood out to me was struggles of indigenous people around the world, and making those connections, making those links, and understanding their role within the international solidarity movement for a free Palestine.
And I think one thing which the Palestinians also communicated very clearly, that just the presence of internationals in such large numbers, it's already very empowering for Palestinians there. They feel good, they feel strong about that.
To bring it back to the BDS, the Palestinian Cultural and Academic Boycott Initiative, PACB, called for an academic boycott of Israeli institutions because of their collaboration with the Israeli apartheid regime. We hear a lot of criticism here when we are working in Canada for an academic boycott against Israeli institutions to cut like relations of universities like Concordia here or McGill University with Israeli institutions. How did going to Palestine and seeing the realities of how Palestinians trying to get education, what things they go through, how did this solidify your support for the cultural and academic boycott call, and what things do you see that will allow us to push forward this call here in Canada?
Well, one thing I can say that there is now a talk within FNEC and within other teachers who went to start a continuous process of exchange. For example, there was one professor who was interested to get writers from Palestine in an exchange program, bringing them here. I think this physical face-to-face contacts will now increase, and I think that will bring more awareness on this, what you have mentioned about academic boycott of Israel. I think the ideas are very, or at least quite clear to people who went there, and now it is the work which is to be done here. what they got from there. Like Bianca was there, she's in Concordia. Like the teachers, now they are starting to organize workshops within the CEGEPs. For example, and they're writing in the papers. For example, in Trois-Rivières, the two people from the teachers' union who went, they were attacked by the Quebec-Israel Society, and they responded back in a very, very good. And their response was also published in the newspaper there, and that brought under it to the attention of a larger community within Trois-Rivières, and other things are being planned. Some CEGEPs are planning to show a film along with, talking about the BDS, talking about the academic boycott. Just a couple of days ago, we had a small theater presentation and a meeting and a discussion that followed. Sept Enfants Juifs was a play put up at the Cabaret Mile End. And after that, there was a discussion not only on the theater, but also on the academic boycott because of the presence of so many teachers and academics in the audience. So yes, I think it's now these are the ways of reaching out, and when we get the Palestinians here, more will come in for sure. More will come in because more contacts have been made, and there will be more people to receive them here.
We're going to take a quick musical break. Right now, you're still listening to Under the Olive Tree, the Palestinian Community Radio Show on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, Ontario. We have with us Bianca Mugyenyi and Feroz Mehdi and Stefan Christoff, who went to the social forum. We'll be back right after this music.
Welcome to my class, Palestine 101.